identified earlier that Chris mentioned, so many of them in areas where they collect, analyze, and disseminate data is absolutely frightening. We will feel a loss of information as well as a loss of services. And on top of that, tens of thousands of people are losing their job across this country out of the federal civil service. They're good paying jobs. We're going to feel it in the Maritime. Those are thousands of jobs being cut here, and those cuts are not just reducing wages, but will also be reducing the services that we get and the information, particularly around public safety. From search and rescue at sea to food inspection, we're going to feel the results of those cuts. Chris also mentioned the Fisheries Act. That has the potential of creating a lot of unemployment in Nova Scotia, even where the work is seasonal. If things shift from locally owned boats, captains, and crews to international corporations that can hire people from offshore, can hire people on larger boats that don't maybe need the same experience, we'll be reducing wages once again. They may even be allowed to use temporary foreign workers. And I'm just going to talk for a minute about temporary foreign workers, although it's only peripheral to the budget. But if capitalism was internally consistent, the kind of economy that we have, then when there was a shortage of workers, when employers could not get workers to do a specific job, the wages would rise. Right. For people to be attracted to that job. So for years they've been exporting good-paying manufacturing jobs out of the country. We know that. Now they're importing people who will work for lower wages when they can't get local people to do the work for the wage that's being offered. It's an unfairness, if you like, in the economic system that we have. So instead of just moving capital around, now we're going to move people around too. Now I'm not blaming those temporary foreign workers, and neither should you. They ought to be allowed to immigrate to this country. They ought to be allowed to have the same rights as other workers in this country and not be used as a way to reduce our wages. So with all the money that this government has, and don't kid yourself, this is a wealthy country with a big budget, $250 billion. We could be making different choices. And I encourage all of you to have a look at CCPA's website, policyalternatives.ca. They present an alternative federal budget. How could we have revenue in, and what other ways could we spend it? So I want you to think for a minute about the $7 billion that we lose because of tax loopholes for the wealthy is enough to pay for a national pharmacare program. The $12 billion in corporate tax breaks is enough to fund a $10 a day child care program across the country. $23 billion in subsidies to the fossil fuel industry in this country would be enough to reduce university tuition across the country by 57%. And the money spent on the military is enough to put a substantial dent in affordable housing and poverty, especially childhood poverty in this country, which is shameful. So just finish up by begging you to make a noise, to let the government know that you don't like the bill, write letters, take to the streets, bang a pot, hang a sign, even like a Facebook page. It's kind of slacktivism, but it'll do for them. We need to stop them, and we need to do it now. I leave a trail of destruction.
Alright, that's a tough act to follow, especially because I have what I'm calling the Bill C-38 flu. So I'm definitely going to use a horn today. My name is Gretchen Fitzgerald, and I'm the director of the Atlantic Canada chapter of Sierra Club Canada. Thousands of supporters and members across this country who speak out for the earth, who truly believe that we are a better society when we work together to protect nature and reduce the toxins that enter the environment. And as it has become abundantly clear in recent decades, the threat of climate chaos means that our very survival and that of many, many other species depends on us facing down the climate change threat, not being afraid to tackle it. Unfortunately, this so-called budget bill is all about fear. unfortunately, the so-called budget bill, with its over 400 pages, 1/3 of which are devoted to attacking nature and the laws that we have worked together for decades to create and to protect, to stop degradation. The fact that Harper argues that we need to get rid of these laws to reduce red tape and create economic growth is simply laughable. In study after study, we have been shown to be ranked at the bottom of the heap when it comes to protecting the environment, when compared to other industrialized countries. And Canadians are not being fooled. A recent poll in the Hill Times has shown that 59% of us believe that the Harper Conservatives are acting in the interest of oil and not in the interest of Canadians. Harper once accused Atlantic Canadians of having a culture of defeat. Well, I would argue this bill is all about defeat. This bill says that Canadians are too lazy, too uncreative, too much in a rush to exploit our natural resources, to tackle climate change, to protect fish and fish habitat, to actually steward the beauty and the diversity that is so much an integral part of our lives. This bill tells Canadians that we need to give up our laws and our voices and to let the oil and gas industry take the wheel.
No.
And so just a lot of the things in this bill are not even understood by the experts that have been examining it since it was proposed, which shows how little democratic discussion there has been about it. But I'm just going to highlight some of the severe things that we're most worried about. At a time when our oceans are severely depleted and we are facing the threat of ocean acidification from climate change and the increasing appearance of dead zones or areas where there's such low oxygen that life can't exist, this bill weakens our ability to protect fish and fish habitat. In fact, this bill guts the Fisheries Act to the degree that even former Conservative politicians and Reform Party politicians have come out against this bill and asked the Conservatives to take it out of the budget bill.
Hey, yo! Good! Let's see if we can get 13 MPs.
This bill, again, with very little debate, has completely rewritten environmental assessment law for Canada. Laws that protect us from unwise developments such as the Digby Quarry, laws that ensure that when projects are approved, that we ensure that wildlife is protected, that communities are protected, that toxins don't go into the environment. This gutting of the environmental assessment law means that we will have fewer opportunities to speak out in our best interests. Simply unfair. We all know that haste makes waste. And to our shame, we are home to one of North America's worst toxic waste sites, which is the Sydney tar ponds. Well, the haste with which they want to get projects approved in this country will create more waste and more destruction. It's guaranteed. This bill means that cabinet ministers can decide to approve energy projects, even if they're shown to be not in the best interest of Canadians and communities. This bill guts the National Roundtable on the Environment and the Economy, which just today came out with a report showing how little the federal government is doing to tackle climate change. Our own former Nova Scotia Environment Minister was on that roundtable and has spoken against cutting the National Roundtable. This is an essential piece of information. Canadians need to know what's going on. Harper doesn't want you to know. And of course, we've heard about the cuts that are part of this bill. They're cutting health programs. They're cutting Aboriginal programs. They're cutting, I just heard, Via Rail. They're cutting all kinds of programs, arts programs. But at this time of so-called austerity, there's still $8 million to attack environmental charities.
Evil!
We all know are acting in communities to clean up litter, to clean air, to get your kids outside enjoying nature, and a lot of this work is done, as we all know, on a volunteer basis or for a pittance. This is a shameful attack on our voice and our actions to protect the environment in this country. We may feel some of these changes right away. We may feel them in the some of them will be long term. But if you drink water, if you like to fish, and I see some salmon fishermen in the audience, if you're concerned about toxins in the environment and how they affect your children, these changes will affect you, and they are being made without your consent and without proper debate. However, the momentum is growing, and it's really awesome to see so many people here today in what's what the organizers have done to bring people together. Thousands of Canadians, including leaders like Margaret Atwood, Grand Chief Stuart Phillip, President of the BC Union of Indian Chiefs, groups like the Canadian Labour Congress, Oxfam Canada, Amnesty International, hundreds of scientists, and all of the federal opposition parties have joined together because of Harper's War on Nature. These groups and 500 others joined us on June 4th to launch Blackout Speak Out, which darkened 500 websites and got tens of thousands of letters to MPs showing we will not put up with having our environment destroyed and having the oil industry take over ruling this country. So I call on you to support our MPs who are valiantly trying to block or split this bill right now.
I stand by any MP, regardless of party, willing
Support
to
the
fight
environmental
this
groups
bill.
who are under attack in your communities right now, either financially or with your volunteer time or by speaking out through Blackout Speak Out, and to turn up the heat on those conservative MPs who are letting oil take over running this country. It's unacceptable and we're not going to put up with it. So please join with us and let's keep up the heat. Thank you.